Today I wanted to just kind of go over warm-up sketches. I do them kind of on a feel basis, like do I feel like this or do I feel like that? And I was just scrolling Facebook today, my Facebook memories, and I got this art on the left. It is Jamin and his wife Lonnie, who is a dragon shifter, and these are characters from my book. And I drew this in 2023, so about 2 years ago on the day, and I spent about 1 hour doing this. And so I'm kind of like, let's see what I can do in about an hour on this. Now I'll probably speed through this, like speed it up so this video is not an hour long. I'll just slow it down when I'm talking or something like that. I don't know, I'm working this out. I'm figuring out how to do this stuff. So anyway, let's begin. I did spend some time trying to find pose references just because I was like, well, I should probably get some. However, I couldn't find anything of this pose, and after like a half hour searching, I was just like, screw it, I'm just gonna try to wing it like I did before. So it's like 1-to-1 almost of how I did it last time. So this time I'm gonna try my old method where I take a paintbrush and I try to block in their silhouettes, and this is going to kind of help me set up like their anatomy kind of, and like I kind of got their height wrong. He is not that tall. He is tall, but not like super tall. In fact, he was supposed to be shorter than her originally, but because I couldn't stop getting it wrong when I drew him, and when other people drew him, they kept making him tall too. I was like, all right, fine, whatever. He's gonna be tall. All right, so I'm seeing a pattern. I just did it again. I made him too tall. So I'm gonna go ahead and just kind of keep working it out until I like what I'm seeing. I kind of like this. I'm seeing it. It's my mind's eye. What this is gonna look like. I put his arm in like this. Make it lighter in some areas so I can see kind of where their faces are going. Hand. Maybe have her pulling up her dress a little bit while they're walking. I don't know. Okay, I think this works. And this is just like a reference, so this is not going to be in the end of the painting at all, so. Okay. So the brush that I'm using is actually a custom brush from a brush pack from my time doing the mentorship with Adam Duff. When you take his mentorship, you get access to all of the custom brushes. And one of my favorites is this, chalk brush. It's a custom one. It kind of gives me this texture that I really like, and where it's like a hard edge, but it's also kind of soft. It's somewhere in between. I called it chalk. It's actually pastel. So it's pastel blending. So I don't know how he made it, but you could probably find something similar on, I don't know, whatever program you use. I use Clip Studio Paint. When I took the mentorship, I was using Photoshop, and these are actually Photoshop brushes. So if you use Clip Studio Paint and feel deterred because you see brushes that's just for Photoshop, do not feel deterred, because you can just drag and drop them into CSP and they work just fine. So anyway, that's the main brush I use for this. Now we're going to do, actually I'm going to make this a little darker because values multiply. Oops. Combine with the Control E, hit the color layer change and make it a little lighter. And then above here, this is going to be the layer that I start doing the lines on. Now my lines are sketchy because I have determined I do not like the pen tool, the G pen tool, is that what it's called? Well, it is a G pen, but I don't like this look. I mean, it works for certain styles, but I can't get it to, like, I can't vibe with it. So for me personally, I like the sketch. I like the pencil. So I use a pencil brush called Artemis Hard. It's from an Artemis pack on the Clip Studio shop. Ignore those are the last stuff I made. But yeah, if you go here to their assets, I'm just going to click it, and I'm going to show you real quick. Artemis Yeah, there it is. Artemis pencil. Now, this is a chalk. I've never gotten that one. I might get that later. I'll go ahead and start so I can come back to it. But yeah, if you click this, if you have Clip Studio Paint, you click this and then it will pull this up and you can just download it. I made sure to favorite and like it so that if I ever lose it for whatever reason, I can find it again. It's free, so you don't have to pay for it. But yeah, the Asset Studio in Clip Studio Paint is super awesome, and I highly recommend browsing it if you ever feel so inclined. So now to do the art. Now this is she's gonna be looking at him. I think her face. Now one of the things is don't zoom in too close when you do this, because very quickly you can make it not look the way you want, or you might like spend so much time liking how it's going, then you zoom out and it is not working, and you either have to scrap it or try to force it to work. And I've been there too many times to do that, so I still accidentally do it. But yeah, so I want her to be looking at him. His face is going to be kind of down like this. When I try to tell my my inner planning, because I plan in my head how this is going, of what this is looking like, I will use certain lines to just tell myself, so like, this is underneath the eye, this is above the eye, and I can make the eyes look however way it works, but I try to just indicate the direction it's going, and it's not going to be perfect. It's going to look kind of weird at first, and you kind of have to let it be ugly at first, like let it be like, oh my gosh, is this working? And then you just got to trust the process. Now I don't like a lot of this, but I do like the direction, like the direction he's looking down. Come on, I can do this. One of the things I learned too a long time ago, but it still applies to quite a bit, even in colors, is if you are trying to create a depth of like, or you're wondering why your lines look kind of weird, it might be that they are all the same width, they're the same thickness. So darker lines at the edges, when they overlap something else, reads much better than keeping them all thin, if that makes sense. Yeah, so Jamin is kind of gaunt. He is very skinny. He has kind of a squarish face, but not quite. Not exactly how to describe his face. But he always has some kind of grin, because even when things are serious, he's cracking jokes, and hard to keep serious sounding, unless like his literal life is falling apart, like people he cares about. He has sometimes morbid humor, because he escaped death only to have lifelong chronic pain, and I did that. Now he was one of my oldest. He is one of the oldest characters I have. I made him when I was 11, and he was completely different. I was a kid, and so he was reflective of that. He was a snot-nosed kid too. But as I got older, I started, wanting to redesign him, give him a new name, or new story and everything. And in 2017, I was 27, and I was going through that redesign phase as I was getting back into art and writing again. And I really wanted to tackle him and his story. And I gave him this backstory where he nearly dies, and when he's saved, his body's not saved. He's never normal. He's never his baseline again. He is in constant pain, and that was reflective of me and what I was going through at the time. I was getting constant bouts of pain, and no doctor could tell me what was going on. None of them could. No one could. And it took 2 years for me to find a solution that would even help with the pain, and it helped, but it's coming back. So whatever is going on, it's probably chronic. It's probably for the rest of my life. And so I guess he was somewhat to kind of help channel that as I was going through it, because it's hard when you go from being able to at the time I worked third shift at a retail store, and I used to be able to go all night, no problem, But then suddenly I was in pain all the time, and I was calling out so much that I almost lost my job for medical reasons. And you know, so having this writing about him was really cathartic. So that part of him, I just kept it because I feel like, you know, there are a lot of people in the world who go through that. And I don't think there's enough stories about people who go through that. I feel like I'm giving her like an under. It's like her jaw's just not lined up right. So yeah, it seems like a side view would work. I gotta think about how the neck is. So, yeah, no, that's not working. Her chin's a little bit too big. Because she always has kind of a round face, Lonnie does. So I'm trying to capture that here. But I think the problem is I made her face too long. So I'm going to try moving it down a little bit. Oops, that's weird, but okay. Okay, that kind of works, but I think her mouth comes out too much. Okay, that kind of works, but then it just seems like her jaw's too down. Given I don't want to redraw the neck, because I think the neck is fine. Let's move all this down this way. Ha! It's working! Okay. Very tiny chin, though, so it's a balancing act. I gotta make sure I get this side of her face, remember where these muscles are. She is a warrior, though, so it's like, she can fight, she's strong, she has a tyrannical father who waged war against the entire country, and that's how they met. Her head is so much smaller than his. Oh my god. I'm rambling and spending way too much time on this. That's okay. That's alright. So her hair is supposed to be pulled up all pretty like. Now for Lonnie and her story, it is not so much, I didn't make her. She actually came from a campaign, a Dungeons and Dragons campaign. And she was supposed to be the big bad apparently, but then when my character's like, I like her, because I put Jamin in the same campaign. He was a grave cleric. He was a grave cleric. And he's bisexual, so he had a lot of male friends up until this point. But when he saw her, it was like love at first sight. He just tunnel vision, like, oh my god, I love her. But she's the queen. He's not. He's just some idiot who is trying to pay for medical treatment at the time. Because I tried to translate his chronic condition into the D&D campaign. And the thing about it, the D&D campaign, they had a cure for everything. So my point in the book with him is that he never had a cure, and that's kind of because a lot of us with chronic conditions never find a cure. We just kind of learn to navigate the world with, you know, the cards handed to us. And I think that that's totally fine, and there's nothing wrong with that. But, you know, this is a game, and in the game, he gets cured. So he doesn't have chronic pain. So I tried to make up with that by having his quirkiness be like, you know, the guy who laughs and fails forward. That's pretty much who he is. Yeah, so in the campaign, he falls in love with her, and she ends up not being the big bad. I guess, what's it? The GM, she was like, you know, yeah, I'm not going to make her the big bad. She's going to be fine. I'm going to make her head a little bit bigger. There, it kind of matches, doesn't it? And so yeah, they fall in love, they have some adventures together. The chemistry with them was just so much better than anything I'd written in my own books. So at the end of the campaign, which took like 2 years, I asked the GM if it would be okay if I made my own version of Lonnie, keeping her name and a lot of her characteristics, but altering her so she fit in the world. So her backstory is different, her personality is a little different. A lot of things she goes through is different, and I have a different design for dragons than she did, the DM. And she's like, go ahead. She was super happy about that. So, yeah, I got her blessing to make my own version of Lonnie, because none of the characters that I made for Jamin felt right with Jamin. And it's not like he has a love story. supposed to be like the chosen one to save the world and stuff like that. And I didn't know what I was doing after a while. Oh yeah, his not good in front of hers. And so now it's more like he was an ambassador. She is the daughter of a war-hungry tyrant dragon, and together they defeat him and then get married. And he becomes the prince consort of the country, while she is the queen. It's a matriarch at that point because, you know, the queen's the ruler. But she's still a dragon and has to unlearn a lot of the stuff that her father kind of put forward. And theirs is a story that I will write one day because I love them and I think they deserve their own story. But that's not going to be for a while because I've got to write the other books, a lot of books that I've been planning. She is a warrior, so she doesn't have super thin arms. Alright, I'm kind of getting to that point where I really wish I had reference because I feel like I'm just guessing at this point. So now I'm zooming out to try to keep from, you know, not doing this right. I might need to take a break. I don't know if I'm going to record the rest of this because I'm kind of running out of steam. But thanks for joining me if you've joined me this far. Alright, so I decided to take a break. I took a break and then I stepped away and I came back and I decided to finish recording the rest of the process. Like I said in the beginning of the video, the one on the left took me about an hour to do. And so the constraints I was trying to stick with was 1 hour. I'm really not good at talking while I draw. So I spent a lot of time and a lot of details I probably wouldn't have otherwise. So taking a break and just not recording myself talk while I work actually I was able to just get back into the zone and finish it. So, yeah, so you just see this is super sped up. It's about 10 times as fast as it actually took. So this is like 5 minutes, but it really took about 40 something minutes, and the original video was about 20 minutes, so it's, you know, roughly an hour, maybe a little bit more because I did get kind of hung up on what kind of effects to add to it in the last portion of it. But yeah, so right now at the stage it's at, I finished the lines. I decided to cut it off at the knees, around the knees, because I couldn't figure how the legs were going to work, and I also realized from a composition perspective, which is something I've learned a lot of since 2023, is that if you really want, you got to decide what you're trying to focus on. And I really wanted to focus on their expressions and, you know, how they're looking at each other and use the environment to kind of pull them together. So I decided to zoom in closer, and by doing that, it saved me a headache of trying to figure out the legs, and it also gave, from, you know, just the composition perspective, in my opinion, better storytelling. So now there's a narrative that I think is stronger with this version than it was in 2023, and I'm really happy with how it turns out, and I hope others enjoy it too. And yeah, thank you for joining. Yeah, so for the rest of this, you're just going to see me kind of working on the shadows, kind of trying to work on making everything cohesive. And I use a lot of layer modes to try to help with that. Overlay, multiply, add glow are the main three that I use. Sometimes I try other things. And then at the very end, I add like this add noise effect to the whole thing to kind of give it more of a papery look at the very end. And also, I'll throw so many ands out there, I do a lot of copy merge, like to merge all the layers as to one layer and above all the other layers. So then it's a flat image and I continue working above that. I don't know why I do it to me, it makes it easier to like do other things. Like I'm gonna blur out the background eventually, so that to try to help with pulling in the focus of the characters. And that, I don't know actually if I did record that, because I remember that being an afterthought, so that might not be recorded, but it is something I did. I just copy merged all the layers as one layer above them, and then I used the select tool to go around the characters, and then added a Gaussian blur to pull it to try to separate them better, and then added a noise layer at the very end. So anyway, I hope this helps if you're looking and trying different things with your art, or just, you know, maybe this was just fun to listen to while you're doing something else. So either way, whatever reason you're here, thank you for sticking around, and I hope to make another video sometime in the future. Bye!